Welcome to Hairblazers, the podcast where seasoned salon owners and industry specialists share their knowledge. Our mission is to empower owners and elevate salons through conversation about what matters most to you. Welcome to this very special holiday episode of Hairblazers. Today we have all three of us in the same room.
Hello.
Which hasn't happened on an episode for a while, so I'm pretty pumped about it. And today we're going to be answering all of these burning questions that our audience has submitted to us. So we have, I had the opportunity to look at some of them in advance when I was prepping for the episode. These two haven't, so we're getting some blind reactions today.
Blind reactions, let's do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we're going to start out with some major ones, and then we're going to end off with some rapid fire ones. So Colleen, do you want to kick us off?
All right, ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. We opened a location in a new area, and there are so many clients with very long and thick hair. How do we charge more for appointments that take longer without clients getting upset? This is totally fair, and I think there's all different textures of hair, and you have to be able to work with all different textures of hair. But in saying that, obviously, if you're taking longer to do somebody's hair, and it's not because you're slow, so that's a different point as well, right. You should be charging for it. And I think people understand that. I mean, I have really thick hair, so I understand like it's going to take someone longer to do my hair. It's going to cost more money. I think where you get into challenges is if you specify certain hair types that cost more money to do, rather than just timing. So I think if you really focus on the timing and how long it takes to do certain services, people understand. You know, for this service, the timing's going to be 60 minutes rather than 45 minutes. Because of that, we have to charge for the extra 15 minutes. It's not we're charging because you have this type of hair or anything like that. It's about the time it takes to complete the service.
And I think charging for time is, you know, a good way to communicate that. And then the other piece is communication. You have to make sure that they understand why you're charging the way you're charging and be able to communicate it in a clear and concise way. Ideally, also have it on your website and other places so they don't feel like they're just being kind of like upcharged because, you know, the stylist feels like it.
Yeah. And you just made me think of something else as well. If you have certain prices listed on your website, when a guest comes in, and I'll say for our salon, often the first time they come in, we'll charge them the price that they thought that they would be paying, like when they came in, right? Once you have that conversation and you see how long it takes to do a certain hairstyle, at that point, it would be like, you know what, I'm going to charge you this today. We now got to know your hair. I see it's going to take this much longer. So going forward, this is how much it will be because it takes this much time. So like you said, communication's super, super important. The last part is timing. When you have a brand new talent stylist, you have to be a little bit more careful when you're charging for timing, because is it taking longer because of the guest's hair or the service that they're getting done? Or is it taking longer because it's a new stylist and they just take longer to do things? So that's something you kind of have to figure out.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Oh, well, thanks.
Communication, love it.
Okay, next one. How can I level up on social media? This is a great one. So we've done a lot of, obviously, Hairblazers episodes where I've talked about things. We've talked about like marketing your salon for $0. We've talked about, you know, I did like a 50 tips for salons and stylists for social. And we have another resource as well called the Social Media Blueprint that you can grab from Blueberry Marketing. We can definitely include the link in the show notes. And that one is essentially like different ways that you can elevate social media in different categories. So like from your planning to your content creation to actually like looking at your numbers and seeing what works the best. So that's a really great resource to use too.
Cool.
All right. Am I up?
Yeah.
Does it matter in the order here?
No.
All right. How do I find experienced stylists to hire? I'd love to get everybody's take on this. Well, you have to speak to them. I think first and foremost, you need to really communicate your culture. Not just your culture, but the type of business that you're running. And that has to be expressed through any means that they're going to be able to see it through. So website, all social channels. If they were to come into the salon, is the salon speaking to what it really is? So I would say any means of communication that they're going to, or any means of media that they're going to be able to see your salon in should speak to what your culture is. And they should be able to get at least a rough idea of what it would feel like to work in this environment.
Just hearing that question, my first thought is ask yourself, why are you looking for a senior stylist? So if you're looking for a senior stylist because you want someone that already has a clientele and that's bringing in money and you don't have to do much with them, then that's probably not the best reason to be looking for a senior stylist. If you're looking for somebody, you know, to that fits into your business model and will kind of take on the culture and be open to like learning new things and maybe help train more of your new talent stylists. Yeah, that's kind of like a different vibe. So not saying one's right and the other's wrong, but just make sure you know why you're looking for a senior stylist, the purpose of it.
Great point.
I would add a couple things to that. First of all, make relationships with new talent stylists, because even if you are not in a position to really have like a solid training plan for new talent, if you're going into schools, if you're making relationships with students, if you're making relationships with new stylists, if you're just being present, then they know of you. So if down the road, you know, that's somebody that you met a couple years ago, now they're licensed, maybe they're looking for a new opportunity, you already have built a little bit of rapport with that person. So number one, play the long game for sure. And number two, one of the biggest reasons or one of the biggest things that stylists look for when they're looking for a new salon is education, learning, growth opportunities, because you don't want to like attract the senior stylist that's just leaving their salon because they haven't been able to make it, or, you know, they're, you know, the team member that's dragging everyone else down, right? Like you don't want to attract that kind of senior stylist that is coming to you because they haven't been able to make it at the salon they're at. You want to attract somebody that is actually looking for more learning and more growth opportunities. So I think all of those pieces together.
Yeah.
And if you have happy senior stylists, use them to find other senior stylists
100%.
that might fit well. And if you don't have any happy senior stylists, then think about maybe
What are you doing?
it's your business and what are you doing?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and advertise. Obviously, be active, be proactive in finding senior stylists. That doesn't mean poach from other salons, but put your message out there. And if they're wanting to hear it, if they're wanting to see it, then at least they can see what you have to offer.
Cool. Me again.
Yeah, you're up.
All
Go for
right. I got my team classes on curly hair, but we aren't getting any clients with curly hair. Yeah. So, I mean, I will say, like, personally, this makes sense to me. A lot of times it depends on like the area and the clientele like that you attract. So we always try to bring in as much education on as many different types of hair textures as possible. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get everybody still, you know, coming to your salon. And if you do have a clientele, you know, that's mainly one hair type, maybe think about like, what could you do to attract other hair types as well? You know, think about like the marketing, what you're putting out there as a message, and don't be afraid to like reach out to people and ask them to be models and come to your salon. Because if you do that, kind of takes the pressure off a little bit because they're not paying for the service. You can really pamper them. They can get to see the experience that you have there and how much effort you're putting into learning that hair type. And then when all goes well, you can use that as a marketing opportunity to hopefully bring in more similar guests.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Bring in models or people to come in that your team can actually practice on, complimentary or even like half the price of a regular haircut. You know, having specific services for textured hair guests or curly haired guests, you know, depending on what that looks like. And then the last piece of it is, even though your team might have done a class, do other people know that you did a class? Do your guests know that that's something that your team learned? Is your team sharing on their social media that they did this class and now they're looking for, you know, more models or more guests with curly hair? So I think that the communication piece is really important there too.
Yeah, share the knowledge. Only thing I would add is, even if you're not getting the clientele in that you're wanting specifically, even if you're able to service one guest that month, then you've done that guest a great service and you've done your team a great service to help them feel empowered that they could execute the service. So I think it's always a win.
Totally.
You know, we had Tiffany Quick come in from the US and she was a fantastic educator for a curly and textured hair class. And she kind of had a different view that I hadn't really thought of before. And she said, get really good at one thing. So even if it's like one specific style with hair texture that you maybe not most comfortable with, get really good at that. And then you can really put that out there. This is something I'm really confident in. This is what I'm offering in the salon. And that way it kind of builds your confidence and then other people's confidence in you as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Nice.
Awesome.
Naomi.
All right, let's
Is
do
it going to be
this.
about marketing? I don't know.
Read it. Go for it.
Do influencers actually bring in clients? Short answer, it depends. So when it comes to influencers, sometimes you need to run a campaign with a handful of influencers and see who actually brings in results, and then double down and develop stronger relationships with those people. The second thing you can also do if you're looking to do an influencer marketing campaign is actually, when you're reaching out to these influencers, getting their analytics, finding out, do the, 10,000 or 5,000 people that follow them actually even live in your city? Because sometimes they might not. So that's a really important component to look at as well.
Good points. I got nothing.
I got nothing either. Love influencer marketing. No, it's truly impactful.
The answer is it depends. It has to be the right partnership.
That makes
and
sense.
Sometimes you need to test out and see what works.
I feel like we have to say communication in there somewhere too. Communication is
God.
really important too.
It's important for everything. It's important for everything.
Moving along.
Okay, next.
How do I know when I'm ready to open a second location? Are you ever really ready? Well, first, I would say just from a business standpoint, you're at capacity with your first location. You're fully staffed. Your productivity is at least over 80%, preferably over 85%. You can confidently say you have the systems and procedures in place to run 2 locations. If you don't know what those are, do your research. But if you open prematurely before you have those things in place, you're going to end up taking from one to give to the other. And it'll take you probably twice as long to get to where you want to be, rather than getting the first location locked down first and then opening the second.
And that totally makes sense. I feel like from experience as well, like you could think that you're ready for it, and then it happens and you're like, oh, look at all these things we didn't think of.
Yeah, you're never going to be
That's
fully
always
ready.
going to happen, though.
And that part of that's the learning journey, right? For sure. But some really key factors. You have to be fully staffed, and you have to have the productivity there. Otherwise, you can get yourself into real trouble. From our experience, we weren't 100% productive. We were not fully staffed in our location, but we knew that going into the second location. The second location for ourselves was a really good opportunity that we really couldn't pass on, because we know we would have lost it. And we knew we were also in a place that we'd be able to manage in the interim as it took time for the second location to catch up. We knew that we'd be able to manage that. So we kind of went in knowing, but yeah, you're right. A lot of the processes and procedures that we needed, we learned along the way. Open, it's missing, you need it. But thankfully we had the resources to do it, and we had a really strong team behind us as well too.
Yeah, I think that's really important too. And if you want to, grow past even 2 salons, it's really important that you're maintaining like the same, it's not going to be the exact same culture, which we learned as well, but you're going to have certain standards, and that's something that you want to maintain across those locations. So make sure you have like the personnel in place that, has the same vision as you, sees what you want in your salons, and is there on the day-to-day and not just kind of letting it run itself.
Yeah. And making sure that your current location is actually optimized. So not just making sure that you're productive, but taking a look at your schedule, taking a look at the days you're open, taking a look at the hours you're open. Are you optimizing the opportunity that is there already before you invest in opening a new location?
Yeah, maybe the only thing that I would add is, one, are you also mentally ready to take on the challenge? It's going to be 2 locations, means double the work. Do you have the personnel in place to support you when those times are going to get difficult? Because I think that's going to be really important. And do you have the financial resources to manage it in the interim? Because even though we had a very successful first location, second location started out really great, but nowhere near where you would love it to be instantaneously. So you need some time. You need the financial resources to be able to support that in the interim.
And think worst case scenario, and make sure you're ready for that. You can't assume, certain things will happen, right?
Nice.
Cool.
Next.
Oh, it's me again. What's it gonna be? I have stylists that don't want to double book because they're making good money and they like having 45 minutes to sit in the back. How do I get them to double book?
Close the back.
Yeah. Close the back. Well, there's a couple parts to this. So the first part is they like having 45 minutes to sit in the back. If you're not double booking, you should not be sitting in the back for 45 minutes.
Right.
Look, I get everybody needs a break. Everyone needs to eat. But you really have to think, I need to give my guests the absolute best experience. And am I able to utilize that time while they're processing to give them a better experience, whether it's a hand massage, talking about product, just sitting and just like shooting the shit with them a little bit, right? People love to talk and tell you about themselves, like building that rapport and building that relationship. That's when you're going to get referrals from them. And that's also going to be more likely that they're going to spend more money with you. You know, you're talking about products. They see you care about them. You're not just trying to like sell them something, right? So yeah, number one is if you aren't double booking, you shouldn't be sitting in the back. And like, that's great that you're making good money. I think a lot of it has to do with culture and starting stylists when they first start to work with you with a certain expectation. So if you've had a stylist working for you for 10 years and they have never double booked, and then you're telling them, we're starting to double book. Like, that's a tough one. Like, I'm not sure how I would feel in that situation. But when people come to work at your salon and you're very open with your expectations, you know, at this level, you're going to be double booking. Here's why. This is a win for the guest. It's a win for you. It's a win for the salon, our three-legged stool. And I think most people understand that. And the difference on their paycheck as well. Like, I know money's not everything to everyone, but it's a huge difference. You're there for a certain amount of time. Why don't you make the most of it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think being really transparent with the opportunity that's there and showing them, if you double book, here is the opportunity of where you could be.
And explain, yeah, exactly. And explaining to them like the support you have in place for them. I get it. If there's like no assistance in the salon at all and no support, and you're asking a stylist to double book, and they might not be able to give their first guest the same experience, or either guest the same experience as they could without double booking, make sure you're saying, you know, we're asking you to double book, but we have assistance to help you and to make sure all your guests are getting the best experience.
Yeah, I just think part of that is understanding the why behind it.
Mhm.
We'll all kind of sum this up. Understanding the why behind why they don't want to double book. I will add this. You know, I don't want to take anything away from the break room. Break room is needed. You need, you know, stylists need to take breaks, need to have that chance to reset between their guests. But if people hanging out in the break room for 45 minutes is a thing in your salon, double booking isn't the conversation. There's a much bigger conversation to be had there. And I think that's something that you have to kind of dig into and figure out, why is this culture leaning towards just being inactive in the salon during downtimes? Always something to do, always opportunity for sure that we can be tapping into. So take a look at that, maybe dig a little bit deeper, ask yourself, are there bigger questions that need to be answered?
Yeah, makes sense.
All right.
Cool.
Naomi,
Next.
there we go.
Ooh, should I boost posts? Only if you want to set money on fire. Posting posts does absolutely nothing. I will tell you, when I have my Instagram open and I'm going through, I will see boosted post after boosted post after boosted post. That is probably something that has no caption other than like a balayage with a heart emoji. Also, basically every single one is not in a city I'm in. And like, we're in Canada, like I'm seeing salons from the US that are boosting posts. So it's really not doing anything for you. I know it's easier and I know that it's much simpler to do a boosted post and less intimidating compared to actually like digging into, you know, meta ads and the back end of that. But they have setup guides now. There are a lot of things that you can do to create like a very, very simple meta campaign. So if you're wanting to put money into something, do not put it into boosted posts.
Got it. So coming from somebody who's not as savvy on social media, or coming from a stylist, you know, it can be overwhelming. And I can picture, you know, going through my Instagram and it's saying, do you want to boost this post? And me thinking, oh, maybe this will be helpful. So like, what's one, you know, somewhat simple thing, rather than doing that maybe a hairstylist that doesn't have a lot of experience on social media could do, that would be more beneficial?
Yeah, for sure. So if you're a salon, I would say actually invest in like legitimate paid ads where you can target location more specifically. If you're a stylist, I would say a great thing to do would be lean into video content more heavily. If you are a stylist, you have a lot of opportunity to create great content that can connect with the right people. And honestly, even take a look at other stylists that are doing it really, really well on social. Take a look at salons that are doing it really, really well. Get some inspiration. See what hooks they're using, see what trending sounds they're using, see how many shots and how quickly they're using in these videos, and try and get inspiration from that you can then utilize in your own content.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd say this from someone whose first marketing initiative was boosting a post.
RIP.
Once only. If you're looking at that and you're contemplating clicking that button, you've got the right mindset. It means that you want to use marketing to get your brand out there, to get your word out, get your message, whatever it is. There's something that you want to do. Just know that that's just not the right way to go about doing it. And there are many resources that you can find online, YouTube it, get a professional to help you out that can support you in those spends that will have the effects that you want to have. But if you're thinking about it, don't feel bad if you've done it. It means that you're on the right track, and continue down that path. Just find the right outlets.
If you're thinking about boosting a post, please, I will be your support person. DM me before you do it. Please. Even if you're only spending $50, it's $50 wasted.
That's a lot.
I think our first one was $10.
Oh, I think about a lot of our firsts.
And I think I remember seeing it was on Facebook at the time, and I think I remember seeing it saying 250 people saw your post, and I was like, oh my God, this is it.
I'm like Antarctica.
I figured it out. I had no idea who was seeing it, right? You just don't know. All right, next question. Are beauty schools doing enough? Oh, this is gonna get me going here. Are beauty schools doing enough to prepare students for the reality of the industry? As a school owner myself, I could answer that question with yes and no. I don't think we can lump all the schools into one category. I think you have to look at them individually. So here's what I'll say. I've researched a lot of schools, and there are some schools that are doing a really poor job of getting students ready for the industry. And when I say that, I think that when we're talking about getting students ready for the industry today, is very different than what that looked like, I'd say even 5 years ago.
Agreed.
But let's even go back 10, 15 years ago, right? Because to be ready for the industry right now, it's not just about knowing how to cut and color someone's hair. It's about learning to deliver an exceptional experience to your guests. It's about learning to work together as a team, learning about yourself as a professional and as an individual. There's marketing that's involved. There's soft skills. There's technical skills. You name it. There are so many things that go into being ready for the industry. There are a lot of schools doing it really well, and I'll just maybe leave my point with this. One thing that we need to understand as an industry, and I'm not saying this from a biased point of view, I'm really taking a step back and looking at it. We have to remember when a school enrolls a student, that student comes in with pretty much zero knowledge of the craft and of the industry itself. And typically, we also see students coming in to school with that need a lot more support than what they needed 15 years ago. And that's a lot to ask from educators, from administration. It's a lot of work. There's a lot that goes into it. And I'm not quite sure all schools have been able to catch up with how many resources that takes to get somebody ready for the industry. So I would say be patient and have some empathy towards schools, because not only are they teaching them the technical craft, there's so much that's happening in the background that they're also working through that salon owners just wouldn't know because you're not in the day-to-day. So are we doing enough to prepare? I would say I truly believe that we're doing the best that we can. I believe there's a lot of schools doing it really well. Unfortunately, I think the ones that really stand out and that are kind of fun to talk about are the ones that are kind of like a dumpster fire that you hear the stories about. So yes and no. And I think it's an individual basis. You got to look at the school. And if you don't know, if you're in a salon owner that's saying, oh man, these schools aren't doing enough, I'm receiving these students or these graduates and there's so much work we have to put in, go to the school, spend time there, give them your input, give them your feedback, see how you could be a service to them. It will only help benefit you and your business and the industry as a whole. Yeah, that's my take.
I have a couple things to add to that too. So one thing, I know it's a big challenge in a lot of states that are rolling back requirements for hours in cosmetology school. That's a huge challenge because, we have 1,400 hours here where we are. And I know there's tons and tons of states that are less than that. They're 1,200, 1,000, 600 in some cases. And in 1,400 hours, like, we are putting as much as we possibly can into that 1,400 hours. But you also have to remember, when you're hiring someone that's straight out of beauty school, that's still an apprentice. That's still somebody that's new to the industry. They've been in the industry for less than a year. And you wouldn't expect somebody who has been doing something, starting from zero for less than a year to be on the same level as the stylists that you have on your team that have been doing it for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. You have to be able to kind of have the right level of expectation for that as well.
Okay, I have 2 more left.
Yeah, you're up. I got 3 left.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, there's a bonus. There's a bonus one in here. All right.
Okay. I just launched Vish and I'm getting a ton of pushback from my team. I've invested a lot in it and I don't want that money to go to waste. Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, Vish is like a color management software company. I guess that's how to say it best. Right. So I've actually heard a lot of salon owners that have had this challenge. And I guess it is a challenge if you don't start out with it and it's something that you're bringing in. A lot of times it can be, the mid to senior level stylists that might have the most pushback. So I don't know if that's the case here. But I think the most important thing, if we go back to our 3-legged stool, is the stylist needs to know what's in it for them. Because I think they already know what's in it for the salon. So I think if there's pushback, my guess is that a lot of stylists are thinking the salon owner is just doing this to make money. They're making this more difficult on me. It takes me more time to do this. And it's all about them, which is definitely not the case. Yes, it helps the salon, but the benefit to the guest and the benefit to the stylist is just as much. So a couple things with Vish. So stylists will measure their color. There's a scale, it's attached to an iPad, and then it weighs out all the different components that you're putting into your color. So that way for the guest, they can say, 3 appointments ago, I had this color that I loved. Can we do the same thing? And the exact measurements of the color from before. Another way it can help is less wastage, which is good for, like in many cases, if the guest will be paying for it, it's good for the guest and it's good for the salon and it's good for the stylist because their guests will be happy that they're not being overcharged for something just because the stylist overmakes
and it's
color.
Good for the planet.
And it's good for the planet. Exactly. The other great thing for the stylist to know is you don't have to keep track of any of your formulas. So all your formulas are going to stay in there. So maybe the first time that you do a guest formula, it may take you a little bit of extra time. But, when you do their root touch-up or their new growth touch-up the next time, it's already going to be in there. So even if you want to change it, you're not having to make notes on recipe cards and stash them away. All the information is right on there. There's so many positives. You know a lot more. What am I missing?
Well, and I think, one of the big value points of a software like this is also correctly charging your guests for the amount of color that you're using. And I think that, there's probably some additional steps in there if you're having a lot of challenges with it. Like, do you have a defined amount of, a single bowl of color is this many grams and you get 2 bowls of color for this color service? Like, do you have that defined for your team? Because then you have a much better picture of your cost and what you should be charging your guest for any additional bowls. So I think that having that kind of background knowledge is important to ideally establish before you launch Vish or a similar system like that. But I think the biggest piece of getting your team on board is helping them understand how it benefits them. And even if you're really having challenges with it, or even the software component, the actual usability of the software, have somebody at your back bar helping the team with color for the first week or so that you're using it. Because once they have that accountability of there's somebody there showing you how to do it, so you have to be reweighing your bowls, it'll help them get into the habit, help them get comfortable with the software so that they can continue to use it moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, again, reminded me of a few things, which I knew it would, is communication with your team. I think a lot of stylists think, I don't waste that much. we don't waste that much. I really don't think this is a problem for us. Getting a month, 2 months of data and showing the team, this is how much was wasted, and something that can be really helpful. And we did this the first time was we took how much money that was wasted, and we got the amount of boxes of color that equals the amount of money that was wasted. And we said, hey, can anyone guess what this is? And that was like our amount of wastage. I can't remember if it was like a 3-month period or something. And everybody was just like in disbelief. We're like, do you know what we could do with that money as well? And this is also letting them know how it benefits them. With this $1,000, we could have brought in, this education, or showing them like this money isn't just like going to the owner's pocket. Like, we're using this to benefit the salon and the stylists.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be reinvested.
Yeah. When I look at the question, I just launched Vish. I think we could say I just launched X.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
If you're any major initiative that you're launching, unless you're increasing wages and salaries, if you're not anticipating pushback on it, then you've ill-prepared yourself. That's it. There's going to be pushback on everything. And people do not like change. We love to be in our comfort zone. We like things the way they are. And anytime we're pushed out of that with change, it feels uncomfortable and we want to push back on it. It's natural. So if you've done your homework and you've kind of anticipated what the pushback is going to be, and in this case, something like Vish, it's pretty straightforward. You can see where the pushback is going to come from. It takes more time.
Yep.
It doesn't really work. I don't waste time. All those things. If you anticipate those, you'll have a better opportunity to then address those issues with your team, or hey, maybe even get your team on board before you launch and get their insight on it and help get them be a part of the process. I think we need to really kind of get in tune with our relationship with time here. And really, you should set these expectations beforehand. How long am I going to give this to really judge it, to see if it was a good move or see how it was going to benefit us? 3 months is not enough. And if you're anticipating that within the first 3 months, it's going to be great and everybody's going to be on board and loves it, it's just not going to happen. We launched in, what was it, 2017, 2018 with Vish?
28, yeah, probably.
Something like that. And we really didn't start realizing the benefits until much later on. It might have even been years. It helped and it, worked, but did not to the degree that it's benefiting us now. It takes time to develop those. It takes time for people to get on board. And if you're patient in that process and you're realistic with what those timeframes should be, then it kind of takes away the whole negative aspect of the pushback, and you deal with it like just any other challenge.
And something else popped into my head. As an owner, make sure you're not shaming people with how much color they're wasting to start. You want to make sure, I know like the gut instinct is to be like, oh, that's terrible. That's so much color. If you do that, your stylists are not going to reweigh their color bowls, or they're going to fake it. They're going to like throw some out in the sink first and then reweigh it. Make sure they understand that this is a process. And you know what? In the beginning, we'll have more wastage. That's okay. Next time it'll recalculate so you don't waste any. So time, it's going to take time.
Okay, next one. Is Instagram still it for salons, or should we be TikToking now? I love this question.
And I didn't get me that question.
I love the phrasing. This is my question, Colleen.
Yes.
Should we be TikToking now? Ideally, both. That's short answer. However, I will say that they're both good for different things. TikTok, and it honestly shocks me how many salons don't even have TikTok on their radar when it's one of the most used social media platforms. So TikTok is awesome, but it's a very different ecosystem than Instagram. TikTok is all about content and what content people are going to watch, people are going to engage with. Really, it's all about creating things that people are entertained by, people are interested in, people want to continue watching. So TikTok is a really great place to see the trends where they are happening first. It's a great place to test out different creatives, see what people are watching, see what people are enjoying, and then using that to inform and kind of filter down to Instagram, post things that work best on Instagram, and then utilize Instagram's social algorithm to actually connect with people that are local to you with this content that you've trialed and tested on TikTok. So ideally both. If you're not doing that yet, at bare minimum, post your reels to TikTok as well to get you started.
Next question. Should you hire family and friends to work in the salon? Oh, that's a good question. I work with family. My wife works in the business. And I think it could be great. I think you just have to, with family and friends, I think it's regardless whether they're family or they're friends, you need to set boundaries. If you're
Mhm.
going to hire them, you need to set boundaries. They need to know what the expectations are,
Yes.
just like anyone else would. I think where working with family and friends could go sideways is when you treat the work relationship the same way that you treat the personal relationship. And that, I don't know, I think you're asking for trouble there. But I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. I think that you just got to manage it appropriately.
Clear expectations and boundaries.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool. That was an easy one.
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
what
I agree.
Colleen, last question
Yeah.
for you.
What's the wildest client request you've had?
Mm.
I think so. I've been doing hair for like probably about 15 years. I have no idea.
No?
I can't even think.
Come on.
I can't even think of a wild request right now.
Oh, let me think back.
Like, I mean, there have been requests that have just been not possible. Like, I'm not going to call them wild, but there have been requests, of people who have like black box. I mean, this is everybody talks about, but the black box dye with trashed hair, and they want
Wanna be
super bleach
platinum.
blonde hair. Yeah. So, I mean, we've all had that, but I don't think I've had anyone that's asked me something where I'm like, where I kind of take a step back.
No?
Maybe.
I think
don't
the
know, maybe
one
we block them out.
Maybe.
I think one that I've seen is someone came in for a consultation with hair like shorter than mine, like maybe like an inch or two, wanting
Extensions?
extensions. Yeah. And it's like, that's not going to look the way you're envisioning it looking. It's going to look like a mullet if you do that. So
Fair.
I think it was like grow it out a little bit more and then come back. But
I got you. Yeah, when I hear wild requests, I'm picturing like somebody coming in and asking me to like shave their back. Like that's what I'm
Oh.
picturing. So in that case,
No?
yeah, there been
I feel like we've gotten calls about that. I
Oh,
feel like we've gotten calls
probably
about all sorts
something.
of things.
I was gonna say Frontline might even have a better answer for you.
Yeah.
They might get some of them where it doesn't even,
Doesn't
trickle
get
down
through.
to us.
Doesn't get through.
That's true. I remember
Yeah.
we like right after I started working at the salon, somebody called and was like, I think I have lice. Can I come in and have somebody check me and tell me if I have lice or
That's
not? I
wild.
was like, absolutely not. You're gonna want to go to the pharmacy, get the
People don't know necessarily though,
yeah,
right?
it's true.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
true.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. So sorry to disappoint.
Yeah.
Rob, maybe you can do too.
All right. Who's
All
up?
right.
All right. How do I get my stylist to care about social media? This is one that we definitely had a bit of a time with when we were first starting out with it. Because, and I think really it boils down to people need to see what's in it for them. People need to see how it benefits them and how it impacts them. So for us, like we inspired the team, we connected it to why it was important for them. We did education, hands-on, make it simple, make it doable. And then we also included in our goal structure. So as a stylist or a salon, if you want to get to the next level, then you have to do a certain amount of content on social media every month.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah. And I think all those pieces have to happen together. You have to have them understand why it's important. You have to, make sure that they actually know how to do it and feel empowered to do it. And then also create some sort of accountability or follow-up. Because if you have them understand the why and you show them how to do it, and then you leave it at that, you're not going to get consistent results.
And follow, I think, is really important as well, right?
100%.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why not just stylists, just people in general don't want to put themselves out there is I think that they're afraid of what others are going to think of them. So that's something that we need to consider and help them overcome, help them become more confident in that, because that's just a real emotion and it's totally understandable. Nobody wants to feel that way. But the reality is I don't think a lot of people can really care.
They don't.
I think you care more than anyone else does. So if you can help them build that confidence and help them overcome that, I think you're going to get much better engagement as well.
100%.
Cool. Last question.
Yeah.
This me?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
It's the big one.
Ooh, it's a big one. The salon my wife goes to is for sale. Stop.
The end.
And I'm thinking about buying it. I own a successful small business, but I don't know much about hair other than what my wife has told me. What do I need to know before buying? I think just doesn't matter if it's a salon, any business. I think you need to know about the industry, the business itself, and how it works. I've heard this come up. I've seen this actually play out a couple times in my career where people just think it would be fun to own a salon, and it can be very fun, but it is also a very challenging business to own, and it could be a challenging industry to be in. There are a lot of moving parts, and we're working strictly with people.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all things to really consider. But I I think with anything, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to invest or be a part or own something, it really, really helps if you're passionate about it. You have to be passionate about it because like any business, there's going to be really hard times. And if you're not passionate about it, it is really difficult to push past those hard times and get to the great places. Passion is what drives, in my opinion, passion is what drives entrepreneurs. Passion is what helps drives businesses. So if you don't have that for the hair salon or the salon industry, then just stay out.
Yeah. We could talk about like the different aspects of owning a salon, but I think in the end, that's what it comes down to when you're looking at.
On the flip side, they're great. It's a great industry and salons are great businesses. But again, like there has to be a level of passion that you're into it for. Otherwise, find somewhere else. Find somewhere else to invest.
All right. To close us out.
Where did this come from?
Oh.
This is another question.
To close this out, we have a rapid fire round.
Okay.
So I'm going to be rattling
Okay.
these off and we can go through whoever wants to answer can go for it. Are we
Can
ready?
we just jump in?
Okay.
Yeah, I know. We need a button. Like I'm a game show host.
All right, shoot.
Salon suites or employee-based salons?
Employee-based
All
salons.
day, every day. Employee-based. So I think salon suites can be great. Do you want us to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, go
I think
for it.
salon
Okay,
suites
rapid
are great for some, but I think for the mass majority, team-based is the way to go.
I agree. And we can do a whole episode on that one day.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
differences.
100%.
What's your take?
I would say that it depends, because if you're somebody that like really doesn't want to work with a team, wants to be doing everything yourself, understands the implications of those things, then who knows? Maybe a salon suite or a booth rental is for you. But I would say it is the minority of stylists that actually thrive and are successful in that environment. A lot of people need structure, want to work with a team, and really enjoy the opportunities that an employee-based salon offers them.
And just
Absolutely.
based on some recent studies that I've recently read, the trend is people are moving back to team-based salons. So
100%.
I think it speaks for itself.
Okay, dress code or self-expression?
A combination. But
I'm dress code.
I just wear black.
I'm dress code.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the business owner and what they envision for their salon.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a right or wrong
Yeah.
answer. It's just what you like. I prefer dress code.
I do.
I prefer dress code personally, but I like there to be a few options, whether it's like accessories or something.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm dress code too, but I don't think it has to be super, super strict. I don't think the two things have to be separate.
Both
Okay.
work.
Both work.
Both work.
Okay, Gen Z, the best or the worst?
Neither. They're people. People
Yeah.
are people. I think there's a lot of talk that, there's a lot of hate on Gen Z. It's super annoying. Get over it. There's not a generation it has not been a generation that the previous generation hasn't had something to say about it. Figure out how to work with them, figure out what drives them, and double down on that, and you'll be happy.
The best or the worst depends on how you lead them.
Yeah.
If you're leading them well, they'll be awesome. If you're hiring them well, they'll be awesome. And if you are not hiring well, and if you're not leading well, then it's going to suck.
And that goes for any generation.
Any of them,
that
doesn't
you
matter.
hire.
100%.
Doesn't matter.
Do consumers actually care about sustainability?
Yep.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. I think they're definitely. I don't think society's been any more conscious about sustainability than it has been right now, and I do think that I don't think it's the only deciding factor, but it's definitely a driving factor.
100%. And I think that if you are having sustainable practices in your salon and that's part of your ethos, I think that your guests want to know about it. And I think that you're not going to see results unless they do know about it.
Absolutely.
Because if you're doing something like paying for a green circle or, another service like that, you have to make sure your guests know about it. Otherwise there's the feel good benefit, but you're not necessarily going to see more guest engagement from it.
Right.
And it feels good for your team. In-salon retail or affiliate links?
Yeah, well, for me, it's in-salon retail. Again, it depends on the person, depends on the business. But for me, I want to be able, as a consumer, I want to be able to purchase something that somebody's used on me in that moment and not have to go somewhere else or order it online.
In-salon retail and having your own e-commerce store. That's my answer.
That wasn't an option.
Well, here's the thing. You want to have both and you want to be the one that's providing that to your guests. Think about all of the online bookings you get when you're closed. It's the same with having your own e-commerce store. You can potentially be generating those sales when your salon isn't even open.
Yeah, I think it could be both. I think it's both. I think if you're a salon owner, you have a brick and mortar location, not having retail to offer to your guests while you have their complete attention while they're in your space is a total miss. I do think that if you are like a suite renter or you just rent a chair, it might not be feasible for you to carry an inventory. It just might not be possible. So affiliate could really work out for you. But if we're looking at it from the realm as from salon owner, if you don't have retail in your location, you're missing out.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the actual percentage of profit that you're getting from each of those, like it makes way more sense to have retail in the salon.
Just do the math.
And I think I shouldn't say any, but for the most part, most salon owners that would say no to having retail in their salons, they don't have a culture of educating the guests. So they probably just have carried retail, have had shitty sales, and their stylists think that they're just being told to be salespeople. And so their other thought is like, oh, well, retail doesn't work. But it's like, if you have the culture, it works.
It works and it's proven to work.
Yeah.
All right. Create more content or pay for ads?
Both. I'm just going to be both on everything.
Yeah. A little bit of both.
You can't create, there's no such thing as too much content. So organic content right now is going to trump all paid ads. If you can get people in front of your organic content, you're doing very well. If you match that up with paid ads, you're only going to do even better. So the answer is just both. You should be creating content all the time. And if you can afford to, and it's within your budget, take out the paid ads and get it in front of more people.
And have some education on where you should be spending your money on paid ads, not just like randomly, right?
Yeah, 100%. I would say both, but I would say if you have to choose between the two, more content before you pay for ads. Because if your content sucks and then you go and put money behind it, it's not going to do very much for you.
Makes sense.
That's fun.
Cool.
What's next?
That's everything.
Okay.
That is our rapid fire round.
Cool.
Thank
this
you,
was fun.
team. We're done. Until next time.
I didn't get any.
That was underwhelming.
Thank you for listening. Leave us a review, share with your team, and tune in for the next episode. We appreciate you.